The unbreakable frame. Mastering social dynamics and conflict. Look at yourself in the mirror of your past interactions. Be honest. How many times have you apologized for taking up space? How many times have you laughed at a joke that you found repulsive simply to lubricate the social friction? How many times have you felt that burning, acidic knot in your stomach when someone challenged you? Not because you were wrong, but because you were terrified of the conflict. This is the plague of the modern man. It is a sickness of the soul that we have labeled being nice. But let's call it what it really is. It is cowardice. It is a biological signal of submission. You are walking through the world with your throat bared, begging the wolves not to bite. You have been conditioned by a soft society to believe that agreeableness is a virtue. You have been told that to keep the peace, you must sacrifice your own pieces. But notice what happens. The more you bend, the more the world leans on you. The more you seek approval, the more it retreats like a mirage in the desert. You are hemorrhaging respect. Every time you nod when you want to say no, you are leaking power. You become a non-entity, a ghost in your own life. People smell this weakness. It is a pheromone of subservience. The Stoics understood something that we have forgotten. They understood that your internal state must never be held hostage by external validation. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, wrote to himself, "Not about how to please the Senate, but how to remain upright, not kept upright." He knew that the man who seeks applause places his happiness in the hands of others. And that is slavery. We are going to break that chain today. We are going to dismantle the architecture of your neediness and rebuild a fortress of sovereignty. We are not here to teach you how to be a jerk. We are here to teach you how to be a rock in a river of chaos. This is about the unbreakable frame. Module 1. The Fortress of Silence. The first weapon in your arsenal is the one you are most afraid to use. Silence. In the modern world, silence is treated like a vacuum. It terrifies people. When there is a pause in conversation, you feel a panic rising in your chest. You feel the need to fill it with nervous laughter, with over-explanation, with chatter. You treat silence as if it were an error. But to the Stoic, silence is not an absence of noise. It is a presence of power. It is the loudest thing in the room. Consider the figure of Cato the Younger. He was the moral backbone of Rome, the one man Julius Caesar could not buy, could not intimidate, and could not break. There is a specific historical account of Cato during the height of the civil turbulence in Rome that illustrates this perfectly. The Senate was a pit of vipers. Men were screaming. Accusations were flying like arrows, and the mob outside was baying for blood. Caesar's allies were masters of rhetoric, spinning complex webs of lies, shouting down their opponents with rapid-fire aggression. They used words as bludgeons, trying to overwhelm the opposition with sheer volume and speed. Most men in Cato's position would have shouted back. They would have stepped into the mud to wrestle. They would have raised their voices to match the cacophony, trying to out-scream the screamers. But Cato did something that froze the blood of his enemies. He stood up. He walked to the center of the floor, and he waited. He did not speak immediately. He let the silence accumulate. He looked at the men screaming at him, locking eyes with them one by one. He didn't fidget. He didn't look at his hands. He simply existed. The noise in the chamber didn't stop all at once. It died a slow, agonizing death. The screamers ran out of breath. The hecklers grew uncomfortable under his steady, unblinking gaze. The silence stretched out, heavy and suffocating. It became a physical weight in the room. By the time Cato finally opened his mouth to speak, he didn't need to shout. He spoke in a low, even tone, and every single man leaned in to hear him. He had seized control of the frame, not by adding to the noise, but by becoming the void that swallowed it. Now, I know exactly what is racing through your mind right now. You are thinking that you are not Cato. You are thinking that if you stay silent in a boardroom meeting, or during an argument with your spouse, or when a disrespect is thrown your way at a bar, that you will look stupid. You think silence looks like freezing. You think it looks like you don't have an answer. You are terrified that the other person will think they have won because you haven't instantly fired back a witty retort. This is your insecurity talking. This is the part of you that still believes this is a tennis match where you must return every serve instantly. Speed is often a sign of anxiety. Reaction is a sign of lack of control. When you respond instantly, you are telling the other person that their words have the power to move you immediately. You are a puppet, and they just pulled the string. By waiting, by holding the silence, you sever that string. You force them to sit in the uncertainty of your judgment. You make them wonder if you even heard them, or worse, if you deemed their words unworthy of a quick response. We are going to install this capability into your nervous system right now. This is the Void Anchor Protocol. The next time someone challenges you, insults you, or asks you a difficult question, you are going to trigger a hard reset. Do not speak. Do not smile nervously. Count to 3 in your head. 1, 2, 3. While you count, look at the bridge of their nose. Not their eyes, which can be too aggressive, but the bridge of the nose. It creates a piercing, slightly unreadable gaze. Keep your face completely relaxed. No frowning, no grimacing. Just a blank slate. During those 3 seconds, watch what happens to them. They will likely start to fidget. They might repeat themselves, but with less confidence. They might even apologize or qualify their statement. You are holding up a mirror of silence, and they will scramble to fill it because they are weak. When you finally speak, keep your voice low and slow. You have now established that you operate on your own time, not theirs. You have become the mountain, and they are just the wind. Module 2. The Iron Citadel. You are walking through life with a begging bowl. You might be wearing a suit, you might have a heavy bank account, and you might have the jawline of a movie star, but spiritually, you are on your knees. Every interaction you have is tainted by a hidden agenda. You enter a conversation not to connect, but to extract. You want validation. You want agreement. You want the girl to like you. You want the boss to praise you. You want the other driver to acknowledge that he cut you off. This is the stench of neediness, and it is the single most repulsive quality a man can possess. Think about it. When a salesman is desperate to close the deal, do you want to buy? No. You recoil. You feel his clammy hands reaching for your wallet before he has even offered value. When a man is desperate for a woman's attention, does she feel drawn to him? No. She feels suffocated. She feels the heavy, wet blanket of his expectation. Neediness is an anti-ferromagnetic force. It pushes away the very thing it tries to grasp. The Stoic concept of autarkeia, self-sufficiency, is the antidote. It is the mental state of the Iron Citadel. It means that your internal stability is a fortress that does not rely on supply lines from the outside world. If the world gives you praise, fine. If the world gives you scorn, fine. The citadel stands. But most men are not living in a citadel. They are living in a tent made of other people's opinions, flapping in the wind, terrified of the slightest storm. To understand true power, the power of needing nothing, we must look at the meeting of two kings. One was a king of the earth, and the other was a king of the mind. The year was 3 BC. Alexander the Great had just ascended to the throne. He was young, invincible, and commanded the most terrifying army the world had ever seen. He was the living embodiment of external power. He had gold. He had fame. He had the power of life and death over millions. He traveled to Corinth, expecting the local philosophers and dignitaries to line up and kiss his ring. And they did. All except one. Diogenes the Cynic. Diogenes was a man who had stripped away every social crutch. He lived in a large ceramic jar. He owned nothing but a cloak, a stick, and a wooden bowl, which he eventually threw away when he saw a boy drinking from his hands. He was the radical extremist of Stoic thought. Alexander, intrigued by the reputation of this man who refused to pay him homage, went to find him. Imagine the scene. The Macedonian phalanx, soldiers in bronze armor, the clatter of spears, the smell of sweat and leather. Alexander approaches the jar where Diogenes is sunning himself like a stray dog. The conqueror of the world casts a shadow over the beggar. Alexander looks down. He decides to be benevolent. He wants to show his magnanimity. He asks Diogenes, "I am Alexander the Great. Ask of me anything you wish, and I shall grant it." Pause and feel the weight of that offer. This is a blank check from God. Money, power, revenge, women, palaces. It was all on the table. A lesser man would have stuttered. A lesser man would have negotiated. Diogenes didn't even sit up. He squinted against the glare, shielded his eyes, and looked at the most powerful man on earth. He said simply, "Stand a little out of my sun." The soldiers were furious. They reached for their swords. They wanted to gut this insolent tramp for disrespecting their king. But Alexander laughed. He was struck by the absolute crushing realization that Diogenes was freer than he was. Alexander needed the world to submit to him to feel powerful. Diogenes didn't even need Alexander to move. He just preferred it. Alexander supposedly said to his men as they walked away, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." Now, I know exactly what your brain is doing right now. It is formulating an excuse. It is whispering, "That is a cool story, but I cannot live in a jar. I have a mortgage. I have a career. If I tell my boss to get out of my sun, I get fired. If I treat my wife with total indifference, I get divorced." You are missing the point. You are confusing the method with the principle. We are not asking you to become a homeless ascetic. We are asking you to cultivate the attitude of Diogenes in a world of Alexanders. The goal is not to abandon your responsibilities. The goal is to abandon your emotional dependence on the outcome of your interactions. When you walk into a high-stakes negotiation, you lose the moment you tell yourself, "I need this." That need creates fear. Fear creates tension. Tension makes you stutter. It makes you agree to bad terms. It makes you weak. The unbreakable frame is built on the paradox that you are most likely to get what you want when you are perfectly content without it. If you are terrified of silence, you talk too much. If you are terrified of rejection, you act fake. If you are terrified of conflict, you become a doormat. But if you walk into the room with the spirit of Diogenes thinking, "I will do my best, but if this deal fails, if this person hates me, if this all goes to zero, I am still whole," then you become dangerous. You become charismatic, because you are the only person in the room who is not hunting. You are the only person who is effectively unbribable. We need to surgically remove your neediness. We are going to implement a psychological drill called the outcome cemetery. Here is the protocol. Before your next significant interaction, whether it is a sales call, a difficult conversation with a partner, or asking for a raise, you are going to visualize the death of the desire. Sit in a chair. Close your eyes. Visualize the interaction going completely wrong. Visualize the client saying no. Visualize your partner laughing at you. Visualize the boss firing you. See it in high definition. Feel the embarrassment. Feel the financial hit. Now, here is the key. In that visualization, do not fight it. Accept it. Look at the wreckage of that situation and say to yourself, if this happens, I will still be standing. I will still breathe. I will still be a man. Sit in that worst-case scenario until your heart rate slows down, until the sting is gone. Mourn the loss before it happens. When you open your eyes, you have already walked through the fire. You are now a ghost. You can walk into that room and operate with pure, cold efficiency because the worst thing that could happen has already been accepted. You are no longer fighting for survival. You are playing the game. You have moved from a position of I must to a position of I choose. And that is the difference between a slave and a king. Module 3. The Toxic Gift. Let us speak now of the poison you willingly drink. You pride yourself on your physical strength. You lift heavy iron. You guard your home. You watch what you eat because you view your body as a temple. Yet psychologically, you have no immune system. You are walking through a spiritual leper colony with open wounds. When another man insults you, what happens? Be precise in your observation. The words leave his mouth. They travel through the air as harmless sound waves. They hit your eardrums. And then, in a split second, you transmute those vibrations into poison. Your heart rate spikes. Your cortisol floods your system. Your vision narrows. You clench your fists. You have effectively allowed a stranger to reach inside your chest and squeeze your heart. You have given him the remote control to your nervous system. You call this defending your honor. The Stoics call it slavery. If you are walking down the street and a stranger thrusts a bag of rotting garbage into your hands, what do? Do you take it? Do you clutch it to your chest and carry it home, analyzing why he gave it to you, smelling the stench, letting it ruin your clothes? You do not accept the package. You let it drop to the floor. You step over it. The garbage belongs to him. It is his burden to carry, not yours. But when it comes to insults, criticism, and disrespect, you grab the bag, you hold on to it, you let it rot inside your mind for days, weeks, sometimes years. You replay the argument in the shower. You fantasize about what you should have said. You are haunted by the opinions of people you do not even respect. To understand how to become immune to this contagion, we must look to the father of Western philosophy, Socrates. Socrates was the most irritating man in Athens. He poked holes in the egos of the powerful. He exposed the ignorance of the elite. Naturally, he was hated by many. He was the target of constant mockery. The playwright Aristophanes wrote an entire play called The Cloud specifically to humiliate Socrates, depicting him as a fool and a fraud. Imagine that. A blockbuster movie released today solely to destroy your reputation. One afternoon, Socrates was walking through the marketplace. A man, fueled by this public hatred and likely too much wine, rushed up to him and kicked him violently. It was a vicious, degrading act. The crowd gasped. They waited for Socrates to strike back. They waited for the brawl. They waited for the manly response of violence. Socrates did not break his stride. He did not raise a hand. He did not even raise his voice. He looked at the man with a mixture of pity and scientific curiosity. When asked later why he did not seek revenge, why he did not drag the man to the courts for assault, Socrates offered a retort that echoes through the millennia. He said, "If a donkey had kicked me, would I resent it? Would I take the donkey to court?" Analyze the devastating power of that frame. If Socrates had fought back, he would have admitted that the man was his equal. He would have admitted that the man's opinion and actions mattered. By comparing the man to a donkey, Socrates stripped him of his humanity. He reclassified the insult not as a moral attack, but as an accident of nature. A donkey kicks because it is a dumb beast. A foolish man insults because he is a damaged soul. It has nothing to do with Socrates. The insult revealed nothing about the philosopher, but it revealed everything about the attacker. Now, I know what you are thinking. The modern alpha programming in your brain is screaming at you. It is saying, "This is dangerous advice. If I let people disrespect me, they will walk all over me. I have to establish dominance. I have to teach them a lesson." You are confusing dominance with reactivity. A barking dog is reactive. A lion is not. When a chihuahua barks at a lion, the lion does not roar back. The lion does not feel its honor has been challenged. The lion does not care. The lion knows it is a lion. The chihuahua barks because it is afraid. It barks because it is small. When you explode in anger because someone cut you off in traffic, or because a coworker made a snide comment, you are the chihuahua. You are proving that your frame is fragile. You are proving that your self-worth is so thin that a single word can puncture it. True dominance is the ability to look at chaos and remain absolute zero. The man who cannot be provoked is the man who cannot be conquered. If I can make you angry, I own you. If I can make you defend yourself, I have already won because I have forced you onto the defensive. We need to install a filter in your mind, a mechanism that catches the garbage before you accept it. We call this the autopsy protocol. Here is how you execute it. The next time someone throws a verbal spike at you, an insult, a passive-aggressive comment, a direct challenge, you will not react. You will pause, and you will mentally perform an autopsy on the comment. Instead of hearing the words as a statement about you, you will hear them as a confession about them. Ask yourself 3 questions in the split second of silence. What is this person feeling right now to make them say this? What insecurity are they protecting? Why do they need a reaction from me? When you shift from victim to analyst, the emotion evaporates. You are no longer the target. You are the scientist observing a specimen. If a colleague says, "That idea was stupid," do not defend the idea. Look at them. Realize they are terrified of being irrelevant. Realize they are trying to climb by pulling you down. Then, respond with the findings of your autopsy. Not with anger, but with a terrifying calmness. You say, "You seem very upset by this suggestion. Why is that?" Do you see the shift? You have refused the gift. You have handed the bag of garbage right back to them. You have turned the spotlight of judgment away from you and shined it directly into their eyes. They will stutter. They will backpedal. Because you broke the script, you refused to be the donkey. You remained the man. Module 4. The Traitor at the Gate. There is a specific kind of pain that breaks a man faster than physical torture. It is not the punch to the face. It is not the financial loss. It is the knife in the back. Betrayal. You walk through life with a naive optimism. You project your own code of honor onto others. You assume that because you are loyal, they are loyal. You assume that because you kept your word, they will keep theirs. And when the inevitable happens, when the business partner steals the client, when the friend spreads the rumor, when the lover grows cold and leaves, you are shattered. You are not just angry. You are disoriented. You feel the ground dissolve beneath your feet. You ask yourself the pathetic questions of the victim. How could they do this, after all I did for them? This shock is your weakness. The fact that you are surprised by human selfishness is a failure of your intelligence. It is a failure of your frame. You are living in a fantasy world where everyone plays by the rules. But the real world is a jungle, and in the jungle, the predator does not apologize for being hungry. Your shock gives the traitor power over you. It makes you emotional, erratic, and vindictive. You waste years of your life plotting revenge, stewing in bitterness, drinking the poison of resentment while hoping the other person dies. You become a slave to the person who hurt you. They have moved on, but you are still there, chained to the moment of betrayal, reliving it every single day. To break this chain, we must study the ultimate act of stoic dominance in the face of treachery. We return to the reign of Marcus Aurelius. The year was 175 AD. Marcus was old, sick, and worn down by decades of war on the Danube frontier. He was thousands of miles from home, freezing in the mud, holding the line for Rome. Then the news arrived. It came not from the barbarian hordes, but from inside the empire. Avidius Cassius, his most trusted general, the man Marcus had promoted, the man Marcus had called a friend, had declared himself emperor. Cassius had heard a rumor that Marcus was dying, and instead of mourning his leader, he seized the opportunity to steal the throne. He took control of Egypt, the grain supply of Rome. He turned the legions of the East against their true emperor. This was not a petty insult. This was high treason. This was a death sentence for Marcus and his family. The advisors of Marcus urged him to panic. They urged him to rage. They wanted him to send out assassins, to purge the Senate, to burn Cassius's family alive as a warning. They wanted him to unleash the beast. But Marcus did not rage. He did not scream. He did not panic. He called his troops together. He stood before the legions who remained loyal, men who were furious at the betrayal. And he gave a speech that defies the logic of the modern ego. He told them that this war was a tragedy. He told them that his goal was not to kill Cassius, but to capture him alive. Why? So he could forgive him. He said, "I hope that I may not be driven to do what is necessary, for I feared that he might kill himself or be killed by another, and thus deprive me of the finest prize of victory." What was the prize? To show the world that a Roman emperor could forgive a traitor, to show that his character was so invincible, so high above the petty grasping for power, that even an armed insurrection could not force him to hate. Cassius was eventually killed by his own men, not by Marcus. When they brought Marcus the severed head of the traitor, hoping for a reward, Marcus refused to look at it. He ordered it buried with dignity. He did not celebrate. He mourned the loss of a friend's soul. He refused to let Cassius's treachery turn him into a tyrant. Cassius tried to steal the empire, but Marcus refused to let him steal his character. Now, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, this is madness. If someone tries to destroy me, I have to destroy them. Forgiveness is for the weak. I am not Jesus, and I am not Marcus Aurelius. I want justice. You are mistaking forgiveness for submission. Marcus did not submit. He marched his army to meet Cassius. He was ready to fight. He was ready to kill if necessary. But he did not do it with hate. he did not do it with surprise. The Stoic does not let the behavior of others determine his own emotional state. If you hate your enemy, you are attached to him. You are thinking about him. You are giving him your energy. Marcus viewed Cassius's betrayal as a disease that afflicted Cassius, not a personal slight against Marcus. When you seek revenge, you descend to the level of the traitor. You roll in the mud with the pig. Marcus stayed on the throne. The reason you are shocked by betrayal is that you have forgotten the nature of humanity. You expect a fig tree to produce olives. You expect a selfish man to be selfless. This expectation is the source of your suffering. We are going to perform a preemptive strike on your disappointment. We are going to inoculate you against betrayal so that when it comes, and it will come, it breaks against you like water on rock. This is the premeditation of evil's protocol. Every single morning, before you check your phone, before you speak to your wife, before you start your car, you will recite the morning preparation of Marcus Aurelius. But you will not just say the words, you will visualize them. Close your eyes and tell yourself, today I will meet the busybody, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, and the unsocial. See the faces of the people you know. See your boss. See your friends. See your partner. Visualize them letting you down. Visualize them lying to you to protect themselves. Visualize them acting out of fear and ego. Understand that this is not their fault. It is their nature. They are acting out of ignorance of what is good and evil. They are driven by their own biological programming. Say to yourself, none of these things can injure me, for nobody can implicate me in what is degrading. By expecting the betrayal, you disarm it. When someone cuts you off, you think, there is the arrogance I expected. When a friend flakes on plans, you think, there is the unreliability I predicted. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a taxonomist of human behavior. You are merely observing the specimens doing exactly what specimens do. When you stop expecting people to be perfect, you can finally love them for who they are, or you can cut them off without a single drop of emotional blood being spilled. You become ruthless in your boundaries, but soft in your heart. You protect the gate, but you do not become the monster outside it. Module 5. The currency of life. Let us discuss the theft that you facilitate every single day. You believe that your money is your most valuable asset. You lock your doors. You check your bank accounts. You invest with caution. Yet, you leave the vault of your time wide open. You allow anyone with a mouth to walk in and rob you. You say yes when you want to say no. You agree to the dinner party you dread. You take on the project that is not your responsibility. You listen to the neighbor complain for 45 minutes because you are too polite to walk away. You are a dispenser of cheap yeses. And why do you do this? Because you are terrified of the friction. You are terrified that if you say no, you will be seen as selfish. You will be seen as difficult. You are trading your finite life force for a moment of social comfort. This is not kindness. This is weakness disguised as generosity. When you say yes to everyone, you are saying no to yourself. You are saying no to your purpose. You are saying no to your mission. You are diluting your spirit until you are nothing but a thin gray paste spread over too much bread. A man who cannot say no is not a man. He is a utility. He is a resource to be mined by others until he is empty. The Stoics held a fierce definition of freedom. Freedom is not just the absence of chains. Freedom is the ability to act according to your own reason, regardless of the pressure applied by tyrants, mobs, or peers. To understand the absolute granite-hard power of the word no, we must uncover the story of Helvidius Priscus. He was a Stoic senator during the reign of Emperor Vespasian. Now, Vespasian was not a monster like Nero, but he was a man who demanded total obedience. He wanted a senate that would rubber stamp his decrees. He wanted a room full of nodding heads. Vespasian sent a message to Helvidius. He told him, "Do not come to the Senate meeting today." He knew Helvidius would oppose him. Helvidius replied, "It is in your power not to allow me to be a member of the Senate, but as long as I am one, I must go in." Vespasian, frustrated, sent back a command. "Fine, go in. But if you go in, keep your mouth shut. Do not speak." Helvidius replied, "Do not call upon me for my opinion, and I will be silent." Vespasian countered, "But I must ask you for your opinion. It is the custom." And here Helvidius delivered the strike. He said, "And I must say what appears to me to be right." Vespasian lost his temper. "If you say what you think, I will have you killed." Most men, at the threat of death, would crumble. They would rationalize. They would say, "Well, I can't do any good if I'm dead, so I'll just stay home today." But Helvidius looked at the messenger and said, "Did I ever tell you that I was immortal? You will do your part, and I will do mine. It is your part to kill. It is mine to die without trembling." He went to the Senate. He spoke his mind, and eventually he was executed. But here we are, 2,000 years later, speaking his name. He won. He proved that his integrity was not for sale. He proved that his no was heavier than the emperor's sword. Now, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, "I am not a Roman senator. I am an accountant. I am a father. If I say no to my boss, I lose my job. If I say no to my wife, I sleep on the couch." You are catastrophizing. You are using the threat of death to justify your cowardice in low-stakes situations. Your boss is not going to kill you. Your wife is not going to execute you. The reality is that people respect boundaries. They might dislike them in the moment, but they respect the man who draws them. When you are always available, you are cheap. When your yes is automatic, it has no value. But when you are a man who says no, your yes becomes gold. We are going to implement a protocol to retrain your tongue. This is called the velvet wall. The mistake you make when saying no is that you offer an explanation. You say, "I can't come because my car broke down," or "I can't help you because I have a headache." When you explain, you are submitting. You are opening a negotiation. You are telling the other person, "I need you to approve of my reason for saying no." If they can solve your excuse, they can force you to say yes. "Oh, your car is broken. I'll pick you up." Now you are trapped. The velvet wall is a refusal without an excuse. It is firm, it is polite, and it is impenetrable. Here is the protocol. For the next 24 hours, you will decline at least 3 small requests. It can be an invitation, a favor, or a demand for your attention. You will use one of these 3 phrases, and you will add nothing else. No because, no sorry, no lies. Phrase 1, "I can't do that." Phrase 2, "That doesn't work for me." Phrase 3, "I am not available." Say it. Then, shut your mouth. There will be an awkward silence. They will wait for the excuse. They will wait for the lie. Do not give it to them. Let the silence hang there. Watch their eyes. They will be confused. They will look for a handle to grab onto, but you have given them a smooth wall. Eventually, they will simply say, "Okay." By refusing to explain, you establish that your time belongs to you. You do not need a doctor's note to be absent from the demands of others. You are the sovereign of your own life. When you master the small no, you build the strength for the big no. The no to the unethical business deal. The no to the abusive relationship. The no that saves your life. Stop leaking your power. Build the wall. Module 6. The irony of control. We must address a specific addiction that is destroying your peace. It is more addictive than nicotine, more destructive than alcohol, and more subtle than gambling. It is the addiction to being right. You walk through the world like a lawyer who is always on the clock. You treat every conversation as a cross-examination. If your wife gets a fact wrong, you correct her. If a colleague misremembers a date, you interrupt him. If a stranger on the internet posts an opinion you disagree with, you type a furious paragraph to educate him. You tell yourself that you are doing this because you care about the truth. You tell yourself that you are a man of precision, but you are lying. You are not fighting for the truth. You are fighting for the ego. You are terrified of the feeling of being misunderstood. You are terrified of the idea that someone, somewhere, thinks something about you that isn't true. You believe that if you just explain enough, if you just argue hard enough, if you just raise your voice loud enough, you can force the world to see things your way. This is the ultimate illusion of control. You are trying to use words to rewrite the reality inside another man's skull. And when it doesn't work, when they dig in, when they get defensive, when they shout back, you lose your mind. You become a slave to their stubbornness. You hand them the keys to your sanity and say, "Please, drive me off a cliff." To understand the absolute limits of control and the terrifying power of surrendering it, we must look at the patron saint of the broken. Epictetus. Epictetus was not an emperor like Marcus Aurelius. He was at the very bottom of the Roman hierarchy. He was a slave. He was owned by a man named Epaphroditus, a cruel, sadistic courtier in the retinue of Nero. Epictetus had zero legal rights. He could be beaten, starved, or killed on a whim. He owned nothing, not even his own body. There is a legendary account of his tenure in slavery that illustrates the distinction between what is yours and what is not. Epaphroditus, in a fit of rage, or perhaps just boredom, decided to torture Epictetus. He placed Epictetus's leg in a torture device, a metal twisting apparatus designed to crush bone. He began to turn the screw. The pain would have been blinding. The natural reaction for any man would be to scream, to beg, to plead, to promise anything to make it stop. Epictetus did not scream. He looked at his master with a calm, detached observation. He said, effectively, "If you keep turning that, you will break my leg." It was a statement of fact. No emotion, no fear, just cause and effect. Epaphroditus, enraged by this lack of fear, kept turning. The pressure mounted. The bone snapped with a sickening crack. Epictetus did not weep. He did not rage. He looked at his ruined leg, then looked back at his master and said, "Did I not tell you that you would break it?" Let that sink into your marrow. He did not fight for his leg. He knew his leg belonged to his master. His leg was external. It could be taken. But his will, his ability to remain rational and calm, that belonged to him. And even the torture device could not touch it. By refusing to beg, he proved that while his master could break his bones, he could not break his spirit. Epaphroditus had the power of a tyrant, but he looked weak compared to the cripple who could not be intimidated. Now, I hear the protest rising in your throat. I am not a slave. I am not having my leg broken. I have rights. If someone tries to twist me, I will fight back. You are missing the lesson. You are fighting battles that are already lost because you are fighting for the wrong territory. You are fighting to control what other people think. You are fighting to control the past. You are fighting to control the narrative. These are all external. They are all, in a sense, your leg. They can be broken by others. When you argue with your wife for 3 hours because she accused you of a tone you didn't use, you are Epaphroditus turning the screw on yourself. You are trying to force her to agree with you. You are demanding that the universe align with your perspective. And because you cannot force her to agree, you become angry, then resentful, then bitter. You lose your frame. You lose your dignity. You become a child throwing a tantrum because the world isn't fair. The Stoic realizes that the only thing he controls is his own reasoned choice. He does not control the result. If you explain your point once, clearly and respectfully, and they still don't get it, stop. You have done your job. To continue beyond that point is not communication. It is coercion. And coercion always breeds resistance. We need to break your addiction to the last word. We need to sever the link between your ego and your need to be right. We are going to deploy a maneuver called the fog. This is a technique used by sophisticated negotiators and, unknowingly, by Stoic masters. It is the art of agreeing with the possibility of the truth without accepting the insult. Here is the protocol. The next time someone attacks you, criticizes you, or tries to bait you into an argument about your character, do not counterattack. Do not correct them. Instead, find a grain of truth in what they said, or acknowledge the possibility that they could be right, and agree with it. If someone says, "You are lazy and you don't care about this project," the old you would say, "I worked 40 hours on this. How dare you?" The Stoic you employs the fog. You look them in the eye and say, "You might be right. I could probably have put more effort into certain parts." If someone says, "You are being an idiot," you say, "I have certainly been known to be an idiot in the past." Watch what happens. You have removed the resistance. You are no longer a wall for them to punch. You are a fog. Their fist goes right through you and hits nothing. They cannot argue with someone who is agreeing with the possibility of their own flaw. This requires a massive amount of confidence. Only a man who is truly secure can admit he might be wrong. A weak man must defend his perfection at all costs. When you use the fog, the argument ends instantly. There is nowhere for it to go. You have conserved your energy. You have kept your blood pressure down. And ironically, by not fighting to be right, you appear infinitely more competent and in control than the person screaming at you. You win the war by forfeiting the battle. You keep your sanity by surrendering the need to control theirs. Module 8. The leaking vessel. There is a sound that is more destructive than the shriek of a missile. It is a low, grinding drone that erodes the foundation of everything it touches. It is the sound of a man complaining. Look at your life. How much of your speech is dedicated to describing things you hate? You complain about the weather. You complain about the traffic. You complain about the government. You complain about your coffee being too cold or your steak being too tough. You treat these complaints as small, harmless observations. You think you are just venting. You think you are letting off steam so the boiler doesn't explode. You are wrong. You are not letting off steam. You are cutting a hole in your own hull. Every time you complain, you are telling the world, and more importantly, your own subconscious, that you are a victim. You are announcing that you are helpless. You are stating that your happiness is contingent on external conditions being perfect, and since they are not perfect, you are suffering. A man who complains is a man who has surrendered his agency. He is standing in the rain, shouting at the clouds, demanding they stop. It is pathetic. It is the antithesis of the unbreakable frame. When you complain to another man, you are not bonding. You are polluting. You are dumping your radioactive waste into his mind. You are asking him to carry your burden because you are too weak to carry it yourself. And eventually, he will distance himself from you. Because nobody follows a leader who is constantly defeated by the environment. To understand the lethal cost of the complaining mind and the indomitable power of the accepting mind, we must look at a modern Stoic who endured a hell that makes your bad day at the office look like paradise. Admiral James Stockdale. Stockdale was the highest-ranking naval officer held in the Hanoi Hilton prisoner of war camp during the Vietnam War. He was there for 8 years. He was tortured 15 times. He was put in leg irons for 2 years. He was beaten, starved, and kept in solitary confinement. The conditions were designed to break a man's mind, to turn him into a whimpering animal. But Stockdale did not break. He survived. And when he was released and asked how he did it, he revealed a psychological distinction that is now known as the Stockdale paradox. He was asked, who were the ones who didn't make it? Who were the ones who died in the camp? Stockdale's answer was shocking. He said, the optimists. He explained that the optimists were the ones who said, we will be out by Christmas. And Christmas would come, and Christmas would go. Then they would say, we will be out by Easter. And Easter would come, and Easter would go. Then Thanksgiving, and then Christmas again. They died of a broken heart. They died because they were attached to a specific outcome in the future, and when reality did not conform to their expectation, they crumbled. They spent their energy resisting the reality of their situation. They spent their mental energy complaining about the injustice of it all. Stockdale, on the other hand, practiced absolute, brutal realism. He accepted that he was in hell. He accepted that he might be there for 20 years. He accepted that he might never see his wife again. He never complained about the fact of the torture, because the torture was a fact. It was the weather. But, and this is the key, he never lost the faith that he would prevail in the end. He held two opposing thoughts: unconditional acceptance of the brutal present and unwavering faith in the ultimate victory. He focused only on what he could control, which was his internal dignity and the morals of his men. He created a tapping code so prisoners could communicate through the walls. He turned the prison into a civilization. While the optimists were whining about the timeline, Stockdale was building a fortress in the dark. Now, I know the resistance rising in your throat. You are saying, but this is unhealthy. If I bottle up my emotions, I will have a heart attack. I need to vent. I need to get it off my chest. This is the great lie of modern therapy culture. It is called the hydraulic metaphor of anger. The idea that anger is a fluid that builds up pressure and must be released. Neuroscience tells us the exact opposite. Venting does not release anger. It rehearses it. Every time you complain about your boss, you are strengthening the neural pathways associated with rage and victimization. You are carving the riverbed deeper, ensuring that the next time the water flows that way even faster. You are training yourself to be angry. You are incubating your own misery. When you get it off your chest, you are not fixing the problem. You are just feeling a temporary hit of dopamine from the validation of a listener. It is a drug, and like any drug, it leaves you weaker when it wears off. The Stoic does not bottle up emotions. The Stoic processes them. There is a difference. To bottle it up is to deny it exists. To process it is to mutt at it, acknowledge it, and then dismiss it as irrelevant to your duty. If you are cold, put on a jacket. If you cannot put on a jacket, accept the cold. Shivering and talking about the cold does not make you warmer. It only makes you miserable. We are going to stop the leak. We are going to cauterize the wound of your victimhood. We are going to implement the verbal tourniquet. Here is the protocol. For the next 7 days, you are going to engage in a fast. Not from food, but from complaints. You are not allowed to speak a single negative word about your environment, your health, your work, or other people. If it rains, you cannot say, "What miserable weather." You simply grab an umbrella. If the car in front of you is slow, you cannot say, "Look at this idiot." You simply wait. If your food is cold, you do not sigh and roll your eyes. You eat it, or you ask the waiter politely to heat it up. Here is the catch. If you slip up, and you will slip up, you must punish the behavior to make it conscious. You are going to wear a rubber band on your wrist. Every time a complaint leaves your lips, snap the band. Hard. Make it sting. This is not masochism. This is Pavlovian conditioning. You need to wake up your unconscious mind. You need to interrupt the automatic loop of negativity. After 3 days, you will notice something terrifying. You will realize that you have nothing to say. You will realize that 80% of your social lubrication was based on shared misery. You will stand in silence with your colleagues because you can no longer join in the ritual of hating the company. Good. Let the silence hang. But by day 7, a new power will emerge. You will feel lighter, because you are no longer carrying the weight of a world that fails to meet your expectations. You are taking the world exactly as it is. You will become a man of action, not a man of commentary. People will start to look at you differently. They will sense a strange, magnetic density about you. They won't be able to place it, but they will feel it. It is the gravity of a man who accepts his fate. It is the aura of a man who cannot be disappointed because he requires nothing from the world but the ground he stands on. Stop leaking. Seal the vessel, Module 9, the chameleon's curse. We must now confront the fraud that lives in your skin. You believe you are a socially calibrated man. You believe you are good with people. But if we look closely at your behavior, we do not see calibration. We see shape-shifting. When you are with your rowdy friends, you become loud and crude. When you are with your religious mother, you become pious and soft. When you are with your boss, you become a sycophant. When you are with a woman you desire, you become whatever you think she wants you to be. You are a mirror. You reflect the environment around you, but you have no image of your own. You think this makes you versatile. You think this is social intelligence. You tell yourself, "I'm just adapting to the room." This is a lie. You are not adapting. You are hiding. You are terrified that if you showed your true face, the same face, to all these different people, you would be rejected. So you fracture your soul into a dozen different masks. You are playing a character in every interaction, and it is exhausting. No wonder you are tired. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to maintain a lie. The Stoics called this inconsistency, and they viewed it as a sign of a weak mind. Seneca wrote that the fool is always changing, shifting, and turning, while the wise man is the same in the palace as he is in the gutter. To understand the ultimate tragedy of the social chameleon, we must examine the life of the most gifted, charismatic, and dangerous man in the history of Athens, Alcibiades. Alcibiades was the golden boy of the ancient world. He was impossibly handsome, wealthy, a brilliant orator, and a deadly soldier. He was a student of Socrates, the one man Socrates loved and tried to save. But Alcibiades had a fatal flaw. He was addicted to being liked. He was addicted to power. And he had no core. Plutarch tells us that Alcibiades was like a chameleon. When he was in Athens, he was the life of the party, witty and urbane. But when he was exiled to Sparta, the bitter enemy of Athens, he didn't just live there. He became a Spartan. He shaved his head. He bathed in cold water. He ate their disgusting black broth. He out-Spartaned the Spartans to win their approval. Then, when he had to flee to Persia, he transformed again. He donned silk robes. He drank wine from gold cups. He learned the lavish, decadent customs of the East. He could be anyone. And what was the result of this supreme adaptability? Did it bring him peace? Did it bring him loyalty? No, it brought him ruin. Because everyone eventually realized that there was no Alcibiades. There was only a vacuum waiting to be filled. The Athenians didn't trust him. The Spartans hated him. The Persians used him. He betrayed Athens to Sparta. He betrayed Sparta to Persia. He betrayed Persia back to Athens. He spent his entire life running, spinning plates, trying to manipulate everyone by being everything. He died alone in a small village in Phrygia. An assassin surrounded his house and set it on fire. The man who could charm kings ran out naked, clutching a dagger, and was filled with arrows like a hunted beast. He died as he lived, a brilliant, hollow shell, pierced by the consequences of his own duplicity. Compare this to his teacher Socrates. Socrates wore the same cloak in winter and summer. He spoke the same truth to the slave boy and the general. He refused to change his tune, even when the jury sentenced him to death. And 2,000 years later, we revere Socrates as a pillar of integrity, while Alcibiades is remembered as a cautionary tale of wasted potential. Now I hear the objection. You are thinking, this is extreme. I am not a traitor. And doesn't Darwin say that it is not the strongest who survive, but the most adaptable? If I act like a monk at a frat party, I am just being socially awkward. You are confusing tactical adaptation with identity collapse. Of course you speak differently to a child than to a judge. That is communication. That is language. But your values must not change. Your opinions should not change simply to avoid friction. If you nod along to a racist joke because you don't want to kill the vibe, you are Alcibiades. If you pretend to agree with a political opinion you despise just to get a second date, you are Alcibiades. Every time you suppress your true self to fit in, you are telling your subconscious that the real you is not good enough. You are training yourself to be a coward, and people can smell it. They might like the mask you are wearing, but they do not respect the man wearing it. They sense the incongruence. They sense that you are slippery. The unbreakable frame requires that you become a monolith. A monolith stands in the rain, the sun, and the snow, and it remains stone. It does not turn into water when it rains. It does not turn into fire when it is hot. We are going to conduct an audit of your masks. This is the integrity stress test. Here is the protocol. For the next 48 hours, you are going to practice radical consistency. You are going to act exactly the same way with the waiter as you do with your boss. You are going to use the same tone of voice. You are going to hold the same posture. But the real challenge is this. You are going to express one unpopular opinion in a group setting. I do not mean you should be offensive for the sake of it. I mean that when the group starts nodding along to a consensus that you secretly disagree with, whether it's about a movie, a political event, or a workplace policy, you will stop nodding. You will look at them and say calmly, I actually see it differently. And then you will state your truth, without apology, without a nervous laugh. The room will go quiet. The tension will spike. This is the moment of truth. Do not back down. Do not say, "But that's just me. I'm probably wrong." Hold the frame. You will discover something remarkable. The world does not end. In fact, you will see a flash of respect in their eyes. Because in a world of sheep, the man who dares to be a wolf is fascinating. Even if they disagree with you, they will trust you. They will know that you are a man who says what he means. You are killing the chameleon. You are cementing the foundation. You are deciding that it is better to be hated for what you are than loved for what you are not. Module 10. The Ledger of Fools. We must now perform surgery on the most dangerous delusion in your mind. It is a fungus that grows in the dark corners of your relationships. It is the belief that the universe and the people in it operate on a balanced spreadsheet. You walk through life carrying an invisible ledger. Every time you do a favor for a friend, you make a mark in the credit column. Every time you listen to your wife complain, you make a mark. Every time you work late without overtime pay, you make a mark. You believe that you are accumulating good guy points. You believe that eventually, the world will audit this ledger and pay you back with interest. You think that because you were nice to a woman, she owes you affection. You think that because you were loyal to a company, they owe you security. You think that because you are a moral man, you should be immune to tragedy. And when the payment does not arrive, when the woman leaves, when the company fires you, when the tragedy strikes, you do not just feel pain. You feel cheated. You scream, "It's not fair, after all I did." This is the cry of the child. This is the logic of a mercenary, not a man. The Stoic understands a brutal truth. Virtue is its own reward. The moment you demand an external reward for your character, you have turned your virtue into a currency. You are not being kind. You are issuing a loan. You are not being loving. You are making an investment. And when people realize that your kindness comes with a hidden invoice, they will resent you. They will feel the weight of your expectation. This is the curse of the covert contract. You have a contract in your head that the other person never signed. You are angry at them for breaching an agreement they didn't even know existed. To understand the absolute liberation of burning this ledger, we must look at the story of Publius Rutilius Rufus. You have likely never heard of him, and that is a tragedy. He was, by all accounts, the most honest man in Rome. He was a student of the Stoic Panaidius. In 92 BC, he was sent to the province of Asia to help govern. At the time, the province was being bled dry by the publicani, tax collectors who were extorting the locals to line their own pockets. Rutilius Rufus, being a man of iron integrity, stopped them. He protected the innocent. He cut off the flow of illegal money. He did exactly what a good man is supposed to do. And what was his reward? Did Rome throw him a parade? Did they build him a statue? No. The corrupt tax collectors were powerful. They trumped up false charges of corruption against him. They bribed the jury. They rigged the trial. The man who stopped the theft was accused of being a thief. It was a mockery of justice. The entire city knew he was innocent. When the verdict was read, and he was sentenced to exile, his friends were weeping. They were ready to riot. They wanted him to beg for mercy, to fight, to use his connections to overturn the verdict. Rutilius refused. He did not shed a tear. He did not rage against the unfairness of the universe. He stood in the court and accepted the exile with a terrifying calmness. He knew that the verdict said nothing about him, and everything about the rot of Rome. He moved to Smyrna, the very city he was accused of robbing. And here is the punchline of history. The people of Smyrna, the victims of his alleged crimes, welcomed him as a hero. They gave him a home. They honored him. Years later, the dictator Sulla took over Rome. Sulla offered to recall Rutilius from exile. He offered to restore his status. Rutilius said no. He preferred to live in exile among honest men than to return to a city where justice was a commodity to be bought and sold. He died in Smyrna, a free man, while the men who condemned him died in the misery of their own corruption. Rutilius Rufus did not have a ledger. He did not do the right thing to get a cookie. He did the right thing because it was the right thing. The exile was just geography. His soul remained untouchable. Now, listen to the objection in your head. If I don't expect fairness, people will walk all over me. If I don't keep score, I will be taken advantage of. You are confusing boundaries with expectations. You can have boundaries. You can fire a bad employee. You can break up with a selfish partner. But you do it because they do not meet your standards, not because you are trying to collect a debt. When you operate from the ledger, you are passive. You wait for them to pay you back. You stew in resentment. You drop hints. You become passive-aggressive. When you burn the ledger, you become active. You give because you choose to give. And if the energy is not returned, you simply stop giving. You don't get angry. You just close the account. It is a business decision, not an emotional crisis. We need to perform a bankruptcy filing on your emotional debts. We need to clear the books. This is the zero balance protocol. Here is the exercise. Tonight, you are going to sit down with a piece of paper. You are going to write down the names of the 3 people you feel the most resentment toward. Next to each name, write down exactly what you think they owe you. My father owes me an apology. My ex-wife owes me appreciation. My boss owes me a promotion. Look at that list. Look at the ink. That is your chain. That is the anchor dragging you along the bottom of the ocean. You are going to take that paper, and you are going to burn it. Watch it turn to ash. As it burns, say this out loud. The debt is paid. I am owed nothing. I am free. This is not for them. They don't even need to know. This is for you. When you walk into a room believing that nobody owes you anything, not respect, not love, not money, you become incredibly charismatic. Why? Because you are not tugging on people. You are not a beggar. You are a king who brings his own supply. If they give you love, you appreciate it as a gift, not a payment. If they give you respect, you accept it, but you don't need it. This is the ultimate shift in social dynamics. The man who needs nothing is the man who attracts everything. The man who demands fairness is a miserable child. The man who creates his own justice is a force of nature. Burn the ledger. Module 11. The Grave of Potential. We arrive now at the final and most terrifying illusion. The hallucination that you have time. You live your life as if you are destined to live forever. You treat your days like cheap currency, spending them on scrolling, on waiting, on hesitation. You say things like, I will do that when things settle down, or I will start living my real life next year. You view your time as an infinite resource, a faucet that will never run dry. But the reservoir is leaking. Every time the second hand ticks, A piece of your life breaks off and falls into the abyss, never to return. You are not killing time. Time is killing you. It is slowly, methodically devouring you. The tragedy of the modern man is not that he dies. It is that he never truly lives. He exists in a state of suspended animation, waiting for a permission slip from the universe to start his mission. He dies at 25 and is buried at 75. In between, he is just a ghost haunting his own potential. You are terrified of death, so you avoid thinking about it. You hide from it with distractions, but by hiding from death, you hide from the urgency of life. You become sluggish. You become soft. You lack the ferocious intensity of a man who knows the clock is ticking against him. To understand the difference between existing and living, we must witness the final hour of Seneca. The year was 60 AD. Seneca was an old man. He had been the tutor and advisor to Emperor Nero. He was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He had estates, gardens, and power. But he had always known that working for a tyrant was like sleeping next to a tiger. He knew that one day, the tiger would wake up hungry, and that day came. A centurion arrived at Seneca's country estate with a simple command from Nero: kill yourself. Imagine that moment. You are having dinner with your wife and friends. The soldiers surround the house. The order is given. Most men would collapse. They would weep. They would bargain. They would offer all their money for just one more day of life. They would scream at the unfairness of it all. But Seneca did not scream. He had been practicing for this moment for decades. He had practiced the discipline of memento mori, remembering that you must die. He looked at the centurion and nodded. He turned to his friends, who were wailing and tearing their clothes, and he rebuked them. He asked them, "Where are your maxims of philosophy? Where is the reason that you have studied for so many years? Did you not know that Nero was cruel? Did you expect anything else?" He was the one comforting them. He embraced his wife, Paulina. Then, with a steady hand, he took the knife and opened his veins. But because he was old and his diet was meager, the blood flowed slowly. It was a slow, agonizing death. He was in pain, but he did not panic. He dictated his final thoughts to his scribes as he bled out. He remained lucid. He remained in control. He died not as a victim of Nero, but as the master of his own exit. He could face the darkness with such absolute calm because he had no unfinished business with his own soul. He had not deferred his life. He had lived fully. He did not leave a mountain of "I wish I had's" behind him. Now, look at yourself. If the doctor told you today that you had 1 hour left, what would happen to your mind? Would you be calm like Seneca? Or would you be filled with a horrifying, acidic panic? You would think of the book you never wrote, the business you never started, the woman you never approached, the apology you never gave. You would realize with crushing weight that you spent your precious, finite consciousness on things that did not matter. You worried about what people thought. You worried about embarrassment. You worried about safety. And now, at the end, you realize that safety was the most dangerous risk of all. I hear your counter-argument. It is the voice of your fear. This is morbid. Why focus on death? It makes me depressed. I want to be positive. I want to enjoy my life. You are acting like a child who covers his eyes during a scary movie, thinking it makes the monster go away. Ignoring death does not make you happy. It makes you complacent. It makes you dull. The acknowledgement of death is the only thing that gives life its flavor. Water tastes best when you are dying of thirst. A sunset is beautiful because it doesn't last. If the sun stayed in the sky forever, you wouldn't even look at it. When you deny death, you create a life that is gray, flat, and endless. You have no deadline, so you have no drive. You procrastinate because you think you have tomorrow, but you do not have tomorrow. You do not even have the rest of this sentence. You only have now. We are going to inject a dose of high-grade urgency into your veins. We are going to perform the eulogy audit. This is not a meditation for the faint of heart. Here is the protocol. Find a quiet room. Turn off your phone. Sit in a chair. Close your eyes and visualize your own funeral. It is 3 years from today. See the casket. See the color of the wood. Smell the flowers. See the faces of the people in the pews. Who is there? Who is not there? Now listen to the eulogy. Imagine someone standing up to speak about you. But here is the rule. They cannot lie. They cannot say generic nice things. They must describe your life exactly as you are living it right now. If you spend 4 hours a day on your phone, they must say, "He was a man who loved his screen." If you stayed in a job you hated out of fear, they must say, "He was a man who valued safety over passion." If you were too afraid to tell your wife you loved her, they must say, "He was a man who kept his heart in a cage." Listen to that brutal, honest testimony. Does it make you sick? Does it make you want to scream? Good. Let that disgust burn through you. That disgust is fuel. Now, rewind the tape. Open your eyes. You are back. You are alive. The coffin is gone. You have been given a miracle. You have been given a second chance that the dead would kill for. You have the opportunity to rewrite that eulogy. But you must write it in blood and sweat, not ink. From this moment on, when you hesitate, ask yourself, is this action worthy of the man I want to be remembered as? If the answer is no, do not do it. If you want to leave a legacy of strength, you must live with strength today. If you want to leave a legacy of courage, you must do the scary thing today. You are the author of your own legend, and the ink is running out. Stop waiting for the perfect chapter. Write the damn story. Module 12. The Rubicon. We reach now the final barrier between you and the man you wish to be. It is the silent killer of dreams. It is the velvet quicksand of hesitation. You are a man of good intentions. You have plans. You have the blueprint for the business. You have the number of the gym. You have the text drafted to the girl. But you do not send it. You do not sign the paper. You do not step into the ring. You stand on the edge of the cliff, looking down, calculating the wind speed, checking the humidity, waiting for the perfect moment to jump. You tell yourself you are being prudent. You tell yourself you are gathering information. You are lying. You are paralyzed by the fear of the irrevocable. You are terrified of making a move that can not be undone. You want the reward of action without the risk of consequence. So you wait, and while you wait, the opportunity rots. The moment passes. Another man, with half your intelligence but twice your guts, takes the prize. History does not remember the men who almost decided. It remembers the men who crossed the line. To understand the raw, terrifying power of the decisive act, we must go to the banks of a small, muddy river in northern Italy. The year is 49 BC. The river is the Rubicon. On one side of the river stands Julius Caesar. He is the governor of Gaul. He is a hero to the people, but an enemy to the corrupt Senate in Rome. The Senate has given him an ultimatum: disband your army and return to Rome as a private citizen to face trial, or be declared an enemy of the state. If he crosses the river with his army, he commits high treason. He starts a civil war. There is no turning back. If he loses, he will be executed. His family will be destroyed. His name will be erased. Caesar stood on the bank. He knew the stakes. He looked at the water. He looked at his men, the 13th Legion, hardened veterans who would follow him into hell. He did not call for a committee meeting. He did not ask for a risk assessment report. He did not ask for a week to think it over. He realized that the waiting was the torture. He realized that life is not decided by safety, but by momentum. He turned to his officers and spoke the phrase that has echoed for 2,000 years. Alea jacta est. The die is cast. He spurred his horse into the water. The legion followed, and in that single moment of action, the Roman Republic died, and the Roman Empire was born. Caesar became the master of the world, not because he was the smartest, but because he was the one who refused to stand still. Now, I hear the voice of your cowardice whispering. But Caesar was killed. Caesar was a tyrant. And what if I make the wrong decision? What if I cross my Rubicon and I fail? You might fail. That is the price of admission to the arena of life. But listen closely. Indecision is also a decision. By not choosing, you are choosing stagnation. By not crossing the river, you are choosing to remain a servant to circumstances. The pain of a wrong decision is acute. It hurts, but it heals. You learn. You adapt. You move. The pain of indecision is chronic. It is a dull, rotting ache that never goes away. It is the what if that haunts you on your deathbed. A man who makes wrong decisions is still a leader. He is moving the ship. He can steer. A man who makes no decisions is cargo. He is dead weight. We need to surgically remove your hesitation. We are going to install a trigger mechanism in your mind. This is the 2-minute Rubicon. Here is the protocol. The next time you are faced with a minor decision, what to order for dinner, which shirt to wear, whether to answer an email, you have exactly 2 seconds. Not minutes. Seconds. Pick one. Move. But for the bigger decisions, the difficult conversation, the purchase, the project launch, you have 2 minutes. Set a timer. For 2 minutes, you can panic. You can sweat. You can weigh the pros and cons. You can visualize the worst-case scenario. But when that timer hits 0, the thinking stops. The die is cast. You must take the first physical action toward the objective. Send the text. Buy the domain. Throw out the junk food. Sign the lease. Once the action is taken, you are no longer anxious about the choice, because the choice is gone. You are now in the execution phase. You are in the river. You are fighting the current. And ironically, the fighting feels better than the fearing. You are a biological machine built for struggle, not for stagnation. When you are moving, you are alive. When you are hesitating, you are dying. Stop looking at the water. The water is cold. It will always be cold. Cross the river. Module 13. The Siege of the Mind. We are currently witnessing the greatest theft in human history. It is not a theft of land or gold or oil. It is the theft of your attention. You are walking through a battlefield without armor. Every second of every day, Silicon Valley engineers, advertisers, and news algorithms are launching a coordinated assault on your consciousness. They are fighting a war for your eyeballs, and they are winning. You cannot sit still for 5 minutes without reaching for your phone. You cannot read a book without checking your email. You cannot have a conversation without glancing at a screen. Your mind has been shattered into 1,000 jagged fragments. You are suffering from a spiritual form of ADHD. You are everywhere, so you are nowhere. The Stoics had a word for the antidote to this sickness, prosoche. It means attention, but it means more than just looking. It means continuous, vigilant mindfulness. It means standing guard at the gates of your mind and demanding a passport from every thought that tries to enter. But you have left the gates wide open. You let the enemy walk right in. You let the outrage of the day, the gossip of the celebrity, and the panic of the news cycle set up camp in your living room. You are feeding the invaders while your own soul starves. To understand the ferocious power of absolute focus, we must look at the final moments of the greatest scientist of the ancient world, Archimedes. The year was 212 BC. The city of Syracuse had been under siege by the Roman Republic for 2 years. The Romans, led by General Marcellus, finally breached the walls. The city was in chaos. Soldiers were looting, burning, and killing. The screams of the dying filled the air. The smell of smoke was choking. In the middle of this apocalypse, Archimedes was sitting in the dust of the marketplace. He was not running. He was not hiding. He was not packing his bags. He was bent over, drawing geometric circles in the sand. He was on the verge of a mathematical breakthrough. His mind was so completely locked onto the problem, so utterly fortified against the external world, that he didn't even notice the Roman soldier standing over him. The soldier, sword in hand, barked a command. "Get up! General Marcellus wants to see you." Archimedes didn't look up. He waved his hand dismissively and said, "Do not disturb my circles." He wasn't trying to be rude. He was simply stating a fact. The truth of geometry was more important, more eternal, and more real than the transient violence of a soldier. The soldier, insulted by this old man's indifference to his sword, struck him down. Archimedes died instantly. Now, you might say, "That's stupid. He got killed because he didn't pay attention." You are missing the majesty of the moment. Archimedes demonstrated the ultimate freedom. The Romans could conquer his city. They could take his life. But they could not take his attention. Up until the very last nanosecond of his existence, he decided what mattered to him. He remained the sovereign of his own mind, while the world burned around him. Compare that to yourself. You are not under siege by Romans, you are safe. Yet a simple ding from your pocket makes you jump like a trained dog. You abandon your work, your family, and your peace because an app told you to. You are a slave to the urgent and a stranger to the important. You tell yourself, "I need to stay connected. I need to be informed." This is a lie. You are not informing yourself. You are distracting yourself. You are terrified of the silence. You are terrified of being alone with your own thoughts, because if you were alone with them, you might realize how empty they have become. You use the noise of the world to drown out the silence of your soul. A man who cannot focus is a man who cannot build. You cannot build a business, a body, or a legacy in 15-second increments. Deep work requires deep solitude. It requires the ability to shut out the world and descend into the mine of your own potential. We need to rebuild the walls of your mental fortress. We need to teach you how to repel the invaders. We are going to implement the airplane mode protocol. This is not a suggestion. This is a rescue mission for your brain. Here is the protocol. For the first 60 minutes of your day, immediately after you wake up, your phone stays in airplane mode. No email, no news, no social media, no texts. You will wake up and you will enter the void. You will drink your coffee. You will read a book. You will write. You will exercise. You will stare at the wall. You will feel an itch, a physical withdrawal symptom. Your hand will twitch toward the phone. Your brain will whisper, "What if there is an emergency?" There is no emergency. The world survived for thousands of years without you checking Twitter at 7 o'clock a.m. It will survive today. Fight that urge. Let the anxiety rise, and then watch it fall. By reclaiming the first hour, you claim the territory of the day. You are telling your nervous system that you set the agenda, not the world. You are acting, not reacting. When you finally turn the data on, you are entering the digital world as a visitor, not a victim. You have your armor on. The man who controls his attention controls his destiny. The man who does not is just a conduit for other people's noise. Protect your circles. Module 14. The fire that feeds. We have arrived at the pinnacle of Stoic resilience. This is the graduate level. This is where the philosophy shifts from a shield into a sword. Most men are fragile. Like a crystal glass, they are beautiful when things are calm. But the moment they are dropped, the moment chaos strikes, they shatter. They fall into depression. They play the victim. They ask, "Why did this happen to me?" Then there are resilient men. They are like a rubber ball. They get dropped, and they bounce back. They survive the trauma and return to their original shape. This is admirable. But the Stoic is neither crystal nor rubber. The Stoic is fire. Think about the nature of fire. If you throw a small piece of wood into it, the fire consumes it. If you throw a massive log into it, the fire gets hotter. If you throw a chair into it, the fire grows taller. The wind that extinguishes a candle is the same wind that fuels a forest fire. The Stoic loves chaos because he uses it as fuel. This is the concept of amor fati, the limb of fate. It is not just accepting what happens. It is not just tolerating it. It is getting on your knees and thanking the universe for the disaster, because the disaster is the raw material for your greatness. To see this supernatural ability in action, we look to the winter of 1942. West Orange, New Jersey. Thomas Edison, the greatest inventor in American history, sat down for dinner. Suddenly, a man rushed in. The factory was burning. Edison's legendary laboratory complex, massive buildings made of concrete and glass, was engulfed in flames. Inside those buildings were decades of prototypes, records, experiments, and one-of-a-kind machinery. It was not just money. It was his life's work. It was the physical manifestation of his genius. The fire departments arrived, but the chemical-fueled inferno was too hot. The water evaporated before it hit the flames. It was a total loss. Edison was 67 years old. By all rights, this should have killed him. It should have broken his spirit. A younger man might have collapsed. Edison's son, Charles, found his father standing near the blaze. The heat was scorching his face. His white hair was blowing in the wind. Charles expected to see his father weeping. He expected to see a broken old man. Instead, Edison looked at his son and shouted, "Go get your mother and all her friends. They'll never see a fire like this again." Charles was stunned. He thought his father had lost his mind. "What?" Edison laughed. "Don't worry, it's all right. We've just got rid of a lot of rubbish." The next morning, walking through the smoking ruins of his empire, Edison told a reporter, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God, we can start anew." 3 weeks later, 3 weeks, Edison's factory produced the first phonograph. He did not lose momentum. He gained it. The fire forced him to rebuild better, faster, and more efficiently. He used the destruction as a cleansing mechanism. Now, pause and look at your own life. You lose a client. You get a flat tire. You catch the flu. And you act as if the gods have personally targeted you for assassination. You spend days mourning the loss of a minor convenience. You are treating the obstacle as a wall. Edison treated the obstacle as a bridge. I hear your skepticism. Edison was a genius. I am just a guy. If I lose my house, I'm not going to be happy about it. You are missing the point. You do not have to be happy about the loss. You have to be happy about the challenge. When a boxer steps into the ring and gets punched in the face, he doesn't cry. He doesn't say, "This is unfair." He accepted the punch when he signed the contract. He uses the pain to sharpen his focus. Life is the ring. You signed the contract when you were born. If you lose your job, say, "Good. I was getting comfortable. Now I have the fire to start my own business." If you get injured, say, "Good. Now I have the time to train my mind and read the books I've been ignoring." If your relationship ends, say, "Good. Now I know what I don't want. I can find a partner who aligns with my mission." This is the alchemist's mindset. You turn the lead of tragedy into the gold of opportunity. We are going to install this reflex. We call this the good protocol. Here is the exercise. For the next 48 hours, you are forbidden from using the words bitter, terrible, or disaster. Every time something goes wrong, no matter how small or how large, your immediate, automatic response must be one single word. Good. And then, you must immediately finish the sentence with the opportunity. You spill coffee on your shirt. You say, "Good. I needed to do laundry anyway, and now I can wear my better shirt." You get stuck in traffic. You say, "Good. I have 20 minutes to listen to that podcast I missed." You receive a nasty email. You say, "Good. I get to practice my emotional control and draft a diplomatic response." At first, this will feel fake. You will feel like you are lying to yourself. But keep doing it. You are rewiring your neural pathways. You are training your brain to stop looking for the problem and start hunting for the solution. After a week, you will become terrifying to your enemies and confusing to your friends. Because a man who smiles when it starts to rain cannot be made miserable. A man who welcomes the struggle cannot be defeated. Stop wishing for an easier life. Wish for the strength to endure a hard one. The fire is coming. Will you be the wood, or will you be the flame? Module 15. The Orbital Sovereign. We end our journey by leaving the Earth entirely. You suffer because you are too close to the canvas. You are pressing your nose against the painting of your life, obsessing over a single, jagged brushstroke. You think that the rude comment, the lost money, the traffic jam, you think these things are mountains. But they are not mountains. They are grains of sand. You lack perspective. You are trapped in the claustrophobia of the now. You believe that your current emotional state is permanent. You believe that your tiny corner of the city is the center of the universe. This arrogance is the source of your anxiety. To achieve the ultimate state of stoic peace, you must learn to detach your consciousness from your body and float. You must adopt the gaze of the gods. Let us witness the moment when a conqueror realized he was nothing. The year was 146 BC. Scipio Aemilianus, the Roman general, had finally done the impossible. He had conquered Carthage. The great rival of Rome, the city of Hannibal, was burning. The walls were torn down. The harbor was destroyed. The flames roared into the sky, consuming centuries of history, art, and power. Scipio stood on a hill overlooking the inferno. He was the victor. He held the power of life and death over an entire civilization. He should have been cheering. He should have been drunk on glory. But the historian Polybius, who was standing next to him, saw something strange. Scipio was weeping. He was not weeping for the Carthaginians. He was weeping for Rome. Scipio turned to Polybius and quoted a line from Homer. "A day will come when sacred Troy shall perish, and Priam and his people shall be slain." In the moment of his greatest triumph, Scipio saw the future. He realized that just as Carthage was burning today, Rome would burn tomorrow. He saw that all empires rise and fall. He saw that all men, no matter how powerful, are dust in the wind. He realized that his victory was temporary, his fame was fleeting, and his life was a blink of an eye in the span of eternity. This did not depress him. It humbled him. It kept him sane. It prevented him from becoming a tyrant. By seeing the end, he remained grounded in the present. You must cultivate this orbital perspective. When you are stressed about a deadline, zoom out. Look at your building from the sky, then look at your city, then your continent, then the earth, a blue marble hanging in the black void. From that height, can you see your deadline? Can you see your embarrassment? Can you see your anger? No, they have vanished. All that remains is the miracle that you exist at all. All that remains is the duty to play your part in the great cosmic symphony before you return to the silence. The protocol for this final stage is the 1,000-year stare. When you feel overwhelmed by the noise of the day, close your eyes. Imagine it is 1,000 years in the future. Walk through the ruins of your city. Your house is dust. Your office is gone. Your grave has been lost to time. No one remembers your name. No one remembers your failures. No one remembers your successes. Sit in that silence. Feel the cold wind of eternity blowing through the ruins of your ego. Does it scare you? It should not. It should liberate you. If nothing you do matters in 1,000 years, then you are free. You are free from the pressure to be important. You are free to simply be virtuous. You are free to do the right thing, not for history, but for right now. You are a small spark in a vast darkness. Do not waste your brief moment flickering with anxiety. Burn bright, burn hot, and then, when the time comes, fade out without fear. Conclusion. The arena gates open. We have reached the end of the script, but do not mistake this for the end of the work. For the last 40 minutes, you have been a student. You have listened. You have nodded. You have felt the surge of motivation that comes from hearing the truth. But listening is passive. Listening is safe. You can listen to this audio 1,000 times. You can memorize the quotes of Marcus Aurelius. You can understand the logic of Epictetus. And you can still be a coward. Philosophy is not a lecture. It is a martial art. It is not something you know. It is something you do. The words I have spoken are not the medicine. They are merely the prescription. You still have to swallow the pill. You still have to do the reps. Tomorrow morning, the world will test you. It will not care that you listen to this audio. The traffic will still be bad. The boss will still be demanding. The temptation to be lazy will still be there. The fear of rejection will still be cold in your stomach. That is the moment. That is the test. Will you be the man who remembers the fortress of silence, or will you shout back? Will you be the man who burns the ledger, or will you resent the debt? Will you be the man who crosses the Rubicon, or will you stand on the bank? You have the tools. You have the codes. You have the ancient wisdom that guided emperors, slaves, and soldiers through the collapse of civilizations. You have no excuse left. Do not tell me you are a stoic. Show me. Do not tell me you are calm. Show me in the storm. Do not tell me you are free. Show me when the chains are rattled. The door to the cage is open. The guards are gone. The script is finished. Walk through. If this signal has reached you, if these words have armed you, then you know what to do. Do not just consume this. Integrate it. If you are part of the Legion, leave a mark. Rate this transmission. Share it with a brother who is still asleep in the Matrix. Strengthen the phalanx. We are few, but we are ready. Now go. The die is cast.